Hey guys, this is going to be the first of the 10-minute tutorials that I was talking about at the beginning of the month. Now today's is going to be on setting your exposure. And I was supposed to have a shoot up at the Capitol, but because of the significant amount of snow that we're getting here in Utah, that shoot canceled, but is being rescheduled. Doesn't matter. What does matter is we are going to set our exposure and we're going to do a tutorial on it with this snow. The concept behind it really is taking Joe, my wife, and our dogs and using a backlight to enhance the snow that's coming down. So let's go take a look at where we're going to photograph and kind of my vision for what we're going to do. So let's head out there. Okay, as you can see, we have a ton of snow. This is going to be the scene of the crime right there. So we're going to put Joe and the dogs way back there. I'll put the backlight way down there at the end of the walkway because you can see that it's a little darker back there. And I'll have Joe walking towards us, and then I'll backlight her, and that'll accentuate the snow coming down. I'm kind of a backlight junkie that way. So let's start setting our initial exposure. And to do that, what I need to look at is actually the entire scene. Like, what does it look like out here, and what do I want the image to look like? Now, as we're looking around, it is pretty light out. There isn't any directional light. Look, and here comes one of our dogs right there. There isn't a lot of directional light, so we're going to create our own by using... Here comes the dogs. Yay! That's fun, guys. Hey, say hi. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Look, this one's Caroline. She's an Italian Spinoni. And that one's Amelia Earhart. She's Border Collie. And then we have Patsy Cline right there, who's Border Collie as well. And look at them go. Yay. Fun times. Okay, back to exposure. So as we're setting our exposure, the one thing that I have to take into account is the scene. So over here, I'm looking down that walkway where Patsy just peed, and I want to set the initial exposure. Since Joe's going to be walking towards me, the shutter speed really isn't relevant here. I'm probably going to shoot at 1/200th of a second, maybe 1/500th of a second. It just depends. I have high-speed sync lights, so those aren't going to be an issue with my shutter. What I'm going to set my light at, and this is the formula for setting your exposure and using backlights, is find out what your scene is. So what aperture do you want to shoot at, and make sure that that aperture matches the power on your light. And then number two, choose the shutter speed. So the shutter speed is going to control the ambient light. So we can make the scene lighter or darker using our shutter speed, and then our aperture will control the artificial light. So let's start that, and Joe is already out here. Say hi, Joe.
Hey guys.
And let's get working on it. All right, guys. Now that we're out here and the snow's coming down, I would like it to come down just a bit heavier, just to accentuate the snowflakes. But you know, you do the best you can with what you have. Now, I'm shooting with a Canon 5D Mark IV. I also have a flashpoint trigger on the top here that will control my Explorer 600. I am taking a little precaution. I'm putting a plastic garbage bag over the light just to protect it from the elements. And as you'll also see, I have a blue gel on there. Now, this is a very cool scene. It's a very cold scene, and I want to accentuate that even more by just popping in a little blue gel on the light. And maybe what we'll do, setting this exposure, is we'll do one with and without. So we'll start with the natural light portrait, and then we'll add in the backlight, and then we'll add in the backlight with a blue gel on there. So let's get shooting. And to set that exposure again, because that's what this is all about, based on, you know, over a decade of shooting out here and, you know, just shooting in general, I'm going to start at about f4, maybe 1/200th of a second at ISO 100. And that's just a base exposure. Another way that you can do that is by putting your camera into AV, choosing an aperture of f4, and then seeing what the camera will come back with for the shutter speed. And then what you can do is take those settings and put them in manual, because when I'm using a flash, I'll be on manual all the time. So let's get shooting. Joe, let's start. I have my exposure set. Let's have you and any of the dogs, it doesn't really matter. Let's have you guys go down to the end of the walkway and then walk back up. I'm going to do just a natural light portrait, and then we'll start doing it again with a flash, and then with a flash and a gel on. So, all right, guys, here we go. So when they're starting to walk down, now's a good time to start setting that exposure as well. One other thing that I will tell you is that I'm shooting an AI servo on Canon's model here, and that's a predictive focus. So when Joe's walking towards me, I'm going to put my focal point on her, and it'll track her and keep focus on her. So let's go. All right, Joe, on you.
Hey.
Okay, real quickly, that's a great start for the portrait. I'm really happy with the base exposure there. In fact, I want it just a little bit darker, so I'm going to increase my shutter speed. Now, let's get the light involved. And let's do one without the gel here, the blue gel. Those first exposures and judging the power of the light back there, it got a little bright. Let's take a look there, show you what we're seeing. So I need to reduce the power of the light, and I'm going to go from half down to 1/16. All right, Joe. Good, one more of those. Let's add the blue on. Okay, lighting change, let's go.
Same angle?
Yep, okay. Come on. Oh, that's really cool. I like that a lot. All right, guys, here, whoa, look out. Here's what we're getting as far as exposure goes. Oh, there we go. Really happy with that. So let's keep working, and let's go through these. You see that moment like this, you know, really work on that. You know, if you see that happening, just zoom in, let it happen naturally.
Hey, Caroline.
Good to go. All right, guys, let's go edit. I'm going to take you through my editing process, and like I've said many times, I use Lightroom 100% of the time, so every image that I shoot goes into Lightroom, and from there maybe 30% go on into Photoshop. So let's see what that looks like. The first step is taking the card from the camera, and what I'm going to do is create a folder on my hard drive, and then I'm going to copy these images to there. I'm not going to use Lightroom to import. I don't like that middle process. I like just a very simple, in control, copy the images, paste them into the folder I created, and then I import from that folder using Lightroom. So let's take a look at that. Okay, importing is done. Let's remove the card and open up Lightroom. Oh, hey, look, there's my friend Chris Peterson at one of my workshops. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to attend one of my annual workshops, Chris has been a staple in there for, oh gosh, I don't know, 5+ years. And he does an acoustic concert. He just released a new album as well, Cowboy Coming Home. You'll want to check that out. Okay, here we go. Let's go through the editing process, and I'll tag, I'll just put some of these in the video so that you can see what I'm looking at. Here the dogs are running. Joe's got a good smile on her face. This is just the base exposure, right? We're just setting up what we want our exposure to be. These are pretty fun. We'll keep that one. And what I'm doing when I say we're going to keep that one is I'm using the number 1 key or the star key, so it gives it 1 star. And I did that while we were out there as well, so I could just click on the 1 star, but I want to go through each and every one of them. Like that one. All right, we added in that light, and we were pumping in a lot of light there, so you can see. I'll put that up on screen. You can see how overexposed that is, so I need to reduce the power of the light. And now for the rest of the video, what I'm going to do is just a slideshow of the final images that I chose and I edited from Lightroom with a preset, took into Photoshop, used Nik Silver Effects Pro, and then also used Alien Skin. So thank you for coming along on this exposure journey this morning.